The International Youth Foundation is a global nonprofit organization. We work in about 70 countries around the world. And we really focus on positive youth development. So how is it we take an asset-based approach to really understanding how to cultivate young people as assets, as protagonists in terms of their own development. In this regard, we really focus on how to improve the young people's education capabilities, how to improve their abilities to work and build their own businesses, and ultimately how we improve their ability as entrepreneurs or as sort of civil entrepreneurs, how they are really engaged in their societies and improving the ability of their own communities to move forward in terms of all of their development. In the Middle East, North Africa, and Africa more broadly, we are really focused on bringing young people to the forefront. How is it that we leverage this really important asset that society has through improving their educational capabilities, really understanding what the challenges are in terms of the secondary school environments, the post-secondary school environments, and ultimately, in the workplace to ensure they have the skills that young people, that the employers are requiring of them, to ensure that they have the ability to build their own businesses, and ultimately, again, to succeed in terms of their civil society engagement. We believe that young people are a demographic asset. There's a lot of young people, but that asset really needs to be cultivated and grown for the benefit of the society. So this is the real focus of our work here in the region and really across the world as well. Sure. We have done a lot of study of the needs of young people in this region and really around the world. And what we see are some very consistent trends, whether that be here in Morocco or in North Africa or really Africa more broadly. Number one is that educational models are proving challenging to equip young people with these skills that are really needed for success in life, in work, and engagement in society. That really means and translates quite directly. Are young people developing the technical competencies that are required for long-term success in terms of basic education, reading, mathematics, science? On top of that, there is the broader set of what we call life skills, soft skills. Are young people engaging in the ability to manage conflict, to work in teams, to do all of the softer collaboration that the new 21st century requires? These 21st century skills, are they available? This then in turn is reflected in our assessments in challenges in the workplace, either underemployment, unemployment, or the inability to succeed and grow and promote themselves in terms of whatever environment that they are. And finally, that then also reflects in challenges within society. Reduced participation, volunteerism, engagement in society, reduced support to civil society organizations, to their communities, to their government. And candidly, the challenge becomes then the negative framework. When young people are not engaged in positive ways, are they engaged in ways that really are not productive for societies, whether that means increased crime, increased lack of engagement more generally, that in turn translates into perhaps negative behaviors that have consequences for society. A very challenging dynamic if we don't move them in the right direction. Sure, very important, and there's huge ability of all actors in society to move forward the issues of young people. Here in Morocco, we have had the pleasure of working across sectors, really working with the government, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Education, many other ministries, also then the private sector, OCP Group, OCP Foundation, as well as many others locally and internationally, groups like Microsoft, Cummins, the civil society organizations, all to look at how they can collaborate more effectively to support young people. One of the key issues that we find is that many different actors are working to support young people, but they are very much working in isolation from one another. So how is it that we bring together groups in a dialogue to understand what the collective needs are, what they are then working toward those needs to address them, and then where there's some unique public-private partnerships to build and grow support for young people. In some ways, for example, it's very simple. If the private private sector is lacking capability in terms of the young people, then what is it that they can be doing to support the engagement of the educational institutions to improve the skills that the young people bring to the table? And then where does civil society work as a glue in some regards to really bring the best practices, tested models, methodologies that everyone can use to support the overall goal, which is to improve the ability of young people to produce significant assets towards society, improved income, improved tax revenues, improved civil society engagement, and really improvement of the worldwide environment. The real lesson is a very basic one, is that young people are an asset. If they are able to be cultivated and grown like any asset, like any investment, you can come up with extraordinary possibilities. One of the things we've seen worldwide is that those countries that have invested in this asset have really moved forward their overall society, because improved educational outcomes improves health, it improves economic growth, it improves the ability of all parts of society to grow and prosper. On the other hand, if you do not invest in this asset, the demographic boom, what they call, can result in either a challenge or it can result in a bonus to the society. So if you don't invest in this asset, you see increased lack of engagement, increased crime, increased challenges across the board, homelessness, listlessness, less economic activity, less civic engagement, ultimately translating into less stable societies. So it really is the decision that all of us need to make, is where we want to put our investments in young people. Well, I think number one is that we need to be looking at policy context where we are supporting those types of programs and incentives that really push forward improved educational models. If we don't have improved educational models at the foundation, that will really then result in translation over the course of time to less effective outcomes for young people who ultimately will be adults and ultimately able to either produce for society or be unproductive assets. That education needs to be in 21st century skills in terms of technical skills, mathematics, science, education, but also needs to be in collaborative behaviors, entrepreneurial engagement, creative thinking, all of the types of skills that are going to be critical to leverage the extraordinary assets that society has. Technology, increased connectivity, all of the different pieces of the puzzle that will improve. This policy context can be improved through government engagement, but really will require governments to engage with a broad sector of actors across society, the private sector, civil society, to understand what those benefits can be, ultimately drive policy that is evidence-based, that in turn then results in improved outcomes for young people. The reality is that youth in this region, like youth around the world, are very active, and they're going to be active and passionate and enthusiastic to support change, whether we help them or not. The technology is available, the engagement is available, the platforms for young people, whether it be through Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of other media platforms that are not even necessarily known to people, those are available and being used. So what is it that we need to do to leverage this asset, to move it in the right direction in a positive way for the benefit of society? That is the key question. If we want to take a positive element to it, we look at ways of building leadership skills, of building networks, of understanding and cultivating positive trends that youth are really bringing to the forefront. Youth have this incredible ability to change activities, to think about things in a new and dynamic way, and what we really need to do is focus on how to build up that leadership. One of the things that we have really prided ourselves at the International Youth Foundation is the development of a broad network of social entrepreneurs, of social innovators that are looking at how to build and grow their own new ventures to prove young people and to prove society in education educational environments, in ways of health, in terms of empowerment and engagement of young people. We have actually been able to cultivate 900 young social entrepreneurs from across the world, each with their own initiative, each giving them with the skill building and capabilities to build and grow their networks, to build the visibility of their platforms, to engage their peers, and ultimately to engage their societies in positive change. It's a very dynamic and exciting possibility, again, changing the dynamic, how we leverage this asset rather than just watching it change us in a way that we're not necessarily yet ready for.